She played college basketball at Frostburg State University in Maryland, and then came to Michigan, where she coached women's basketball for 9 years at Wayne State University. Diane has been at Macomb College for 14 years, 12 in student life, for the past 2 years as the advisor for Phi Theta Kappa, and in 2003 was a recipient of the National Paragon Award for Outstanding Advisor. Everybody can give her a warm round.
Computer wasn't set up, so I needed to, got a little video I needed to show. So anyway, need to be flexible, adaptable, and act quickly. So, yeah, I've been out of Phi Theta Kappa for a couple of years now, and I certainly miss it. I see some familiar faces. I've seen a lot walking through the halls and kind of hang out for lunch and talk to everybody. And it was a wonderful time, and like I said, it was 12 years, and I was the advisor. And when we started here at Macomb, we have 2 campuses, South Campus, Center Campus, and we had 2 chapters. Crazy, and they were both very successful. And then we combined them to make one chapter, and we kind of, the other campus is only 12 miles away from here, so it was just kind of made sense to combine the chapters. But anyway, yeah, a big part of my life has been sports and athletics. My undergrad is in physical education, so I was a teacher, and then I got a master's degree in sports administration at Eastern Kentucky University. Coached 9 years, and now I'm just an armchair quarterback. I still do my own thing, but I don't coach, and I certainly watch a lot of sports. Everybody gonna watch the Tigers game tonight? Okay, so.
I might have.
Oh yeah, oh you have to do us? Oh, okay. But I think that you're here, obviously the culture of competition, and certainly sports that's like the easiest thing. I mean, because it's all about competition. So, I'm sure many of you have participated in sport. Maybe smart, and maybe in the class, academics is priority. But how many of you, through the years, growing up, participated in some sporting activity? Okay. In general, would you say it was pretty positive? How many of you, maybe not so positive, either because of parents or coaches or other kids or whatever the case may be? Okay. Or I'm assuming you probably maybe you weren't the recipient of some of this bullying, if you want to say that, but certainly maybe saw it. Now, as parents, how many of you have kids right now who are in athletics? Okay. Yeah, kids, grandkids, neighbors, whatever. I mean, so. Yeah, so there's you know, we're still involved, and I'm sure we sit in the stands and kind of are amazed, because the majority of people are pretty good at the games. You know, they're civil, they're nice, they get into it and cheer, that's okay, but yeah, there's the ones, just like anything, the ones that ruin it for everybody. And it's becoming worse. Now, is it becoming worse because, like everything else, we see it? Because of social media, because of the video, the camera, we can take pictures of it while it's happening now. So, I don't know. I think they have statistics to show it's probably not getting worse. Actually, violence in schools is actually down, but it seems our perception is that it seems worse, probably because we see it a lot more. We see it on TV, and we see it with it is, and and we'll talk about the reasons. Why is it getting worse? So, we talked about that. And unfortunately, by the time these kids turn 13, 70% of them have dropped out because of the pressure that's either put on them or it ceases to be fun. So, I just wanted to play a little clip here. Just play this. Go. This is a how do I get back there? This is a clip that Brian Couple did. And now we're gonna stop ahead there.
Here are the positive lessons that youngsters learn on the field of sport have been well documented. Usually nationwide, kids are learning all about sportsmanship, perspective, and discipline. The very attributes that many of their parents now seem to be laughing when they watch them play. One's answers that many of those soccer moms and Little League dads who have long been loudmouths at children's games have now added a new and violent dimension to their ways. In this Real Sports Illustrated report, our buddy Goldberg looks at the dirty sports secret of America's suburbs.
He broke my nose, broke it right across the bridge. The septum was deviated 40%, and he fractured my left orbital right underneath the eye.
Steve Farinacci was mugged, but not in some dark alley by some stranger late at night. Farinacci is a soccer referee in Port St. Lucie, Florida, who was attacked in broad daylight by a coach.
5 minutes into the second half, I called foul against the Port St. Lucie team. The coach came up off the bench, slammed his clipboard down, and proceeded to start yelling at me.
But that was just the beginning. Farinacci says the coach kept up the tirade and even started cursing at him. Fed up with the verbal abuse, especially in the presence of kids, Farinacci called off the game and started walking off the field.
I'm approaching the clubhouse when he said it, he couldn't talk to me out on the field, he's talking to me now. And I'm right here. And I turn, and you can see I turn, I said, sure. He's approaching me rapidly. When he does that, he bumps into me. I mean, with the force. I mean, he's a big guy. Backs me up into the door like this, and I knew I was in trouble. You see just a slam down on my head, and I just stumbled into the clubhouse.
And this camera right here.
Yes, caught it.
A surveillance camera right outside the clubhouse caught the whole thing. The coach, Maurice Lesmes, confronts Farinacci and headbutts him. Lesmes, who refused to do an interview with Real Sports, pled no contest to battery, was sentenced to 7 days in jail, and given 1 year probation.
This is part of what the experts tell us is a growing trend.
Yes, it is definitely growing. The insults have gotten more personal and more violent in nature.
The fact is, in parks all across America, the field of dreams has become a field of screams. Fights, if not commonplace, well, they're certainly no longer unusual. And what makes it really crazy is that for the most part, it's not the kids who are starting the mayhem. The real troublemakers, the ones who can't seem to control themselves, are the coaches and the parents, the ones we like to call the grown-ups.
Last October, a coach in Nebraska punches a 16-year-old referee during a flag football game involving 6 and 7-year-olds. A month later, a post-game handshake in Weston, Florida, turns into a brawl between parents, coaches, and teenage football players.
The police are on the way. Get off the field.
This past summer in Hollywood, Florida, a coach turns himself in after being charged with assault for allegedly breaking an umpire's jaw at a team baseball game. And then in July, outside Boston, what begins as a shoving match between two fathers after a kid's hockey practice ends with one beaten to death, the other charged with manslaughter and facing 20 years in prison.
How do you describe what's going on out there?
Insanity, craziness, loss of perspective of parents across this country with their children in sport.
20 years ago, Fred Ames started the National Alliance for Youth Sports, an organization that monitors children's athletics. The game is for kids, he says, not for a bunch of obnoxious adults.
Obviously, most parents, the overwhelming majority, are wonderful people. Let me preface that. But the ugly people are growing and growing. That's why this has to stop.
But why has it gotten so nasty? What makes some parents so angry over a game that, in the big scheme of things, is so meaningless?
3 different things: fear, ego, and greed. As a parent, I have a tremendous fear today, more than ever, that my child will not be number one. Ego, it's not going to happen the second time around. I didn't make my Little League team, didn't make the high school team, didn't make the top. I could have been a major league player. They're living through their kids? Absolutely. And you know the ugly part of the third thing? Greed, you got it. My child's going to make some of that big money. Scholarship money, going to get into the major leagues, $1 million contracts, and that's where it crosses over the line. See, the parents are the ones that put up the scoreboards, the standings, the championships, the all-star games. Kids, you ask kids if they want that? Nah. What kids want is fun.
Ames cites a Michigan State University survey that says of the 20 million kids who participate in youth sports in America, 70% of them quit before they turn 13.
What was the number one reason that they gave for dropping out?
Boys and girls alike, the number one reason it ceased to be fun.
Sports ceased to be fun.
What are they telling us?
What do you think they're telling you?
They're telling us to back off. Let us have fun. Give it back to us. Behave.
You're making it sound like kids are more grown up than the grown-ups.
Well,
Which brings us to Miami, just before Labor Day of this year. Two coaches fight it out over an umpire's call at a T-ball game for 4- and 5-year-olds. Peter Hernandez is a parent of one of the T-ball players, as well as one of the coaches involved.
I took a swing, he hit me back, and that's where everyone else went out. And other parents are trying to stop other people, another fight broke out, and it just got into a really big brawl.
A very big brawl? You could say that. Take a look. Parents in the stands see the coaches fighting, so they storm onto the field and begin battling each other as their kids watch.
They get too much into the game, and they want to win,
Giancarlo Peluso is the 16-year-old umpire who made the call that touched off the fight.
The fight was like between 20 minutes, the coaches started it, and then it ended up girls, and then like mothers fighting each other, and screaming names at each other, and running at each other, everything.
The mothers are hitting each other?
The fathers, brothers, sisters, everyone was fighting.
No grandmothers.
Both of the coaches have been suspended from the league. As for Hernandez, who says he was just defending himself, does he regret getting involved in the scuffle that touched off the brawl?
I've had time to think about it, and I still think I would have reacted the same way. It got a little out of hand. It got way out of hand. We solved it real quick. We did what we did. We got split up. It was over. That's the way it should have stayed. But other people got involved. Other things happened, and they really got, a little messy.
I hereby pledge to provide positive support.
These parents in Jupiter, Florida are taking the pledge to behave themselves at their children's games. It's part of the National Alliance for Youth Sports program that requires parents to attend a 1-hour class on sports civility.
If your kid and you are not having fun, then you're really wasting some very precious time.
If parents think this is silly and don't show up, their kids cannot play in any of the town's leagues. Simple as that.
What do you think of this program?
I think it's a great idea. We've seen people last year where we've had to escort referees out because they've been threatened by other players or other parents. So it's a great thing to have.
Just about everyone we spoke to felt the same way. Make the parents promise to behave, and they will. Maybe because if they don't, their own kids will suffer. But listen to the horror stories about the way things used to be.
Coaches ram their kids if they miss the ball, choke them, and they're 5 and 6-year-olds. They're not professionals.
He was ranting, raving, hollering and screaming, saying cuss words at the kid, at the coach, at everybody. I mean, he was just going completely berserk.
One day we started looking out there at the kids, and the kids seemed so uptight, so unhappy.
The next morning, we went to Jupiter Community Park for a first-hand look at how the program is working. Pee-wee football for 8 to 10-year-olds, and for the most part, the parents on the Jupiter side of the field, while boisterous, were under control. But on the other side of the field,
Then you need to stay with me and act like you want to play this game. No, you're not. You're not. You're moping around, going, how come I'm not getting to play?
this is the visiting team from another town up the Florida coast. On this side of the field, the atmosphere is a little more, well, let's call it intense.
Oh, I guess they got that one too, huh? Yeah, they'll get them all, I'm sure. Come on! What is that? Come on, Joanna! You're killing me! Let's go to see this crowd!
He's Robert Shepard, the in-your-face visiting team coach and parent of one of the football players, who seems to adhere to that old saying that dancing is a contact sport. Football, even pee-wee football, is more like nuclear war.
The intensity seemed awfully, at an awfully high level. Do they enjoy that, or do they, if they don't enjoy it, is it good for them?
They They love
Take it from me, we love
It's
it.
not badminton, it's football. You go out there and not intense, you're gonna get hurt.
We teach them discipline, we teach them team, we teach them that there is no I in team, you know, the organization. It all rolls into their later as they grow up in life to realize this is the way things are.
And the moment between you and the referee?
I was wrong. I got a little upset because I've seen a few times with the referees. I realize they can't catch it all, but Ray Charles could have caught a couple of those plays.
These kids are trying to win a game and you ain't helping them now.
Don't get a hole either, all right?
No. How about some fair play?
Come on, guys.
And to those who say it's too intense, there's too much emphasis on winning, and if they don't win, you know, what, they're losers and that type of thing.
No, when they don't win, you've also got to be able to build them up and get their confidence back up. If they lost, but that doesn't mean that they're not worth what practicing. Everybody is going to incur some disappointment in any game. As far as the toughness and how rough they are, if they don't want their kids to be tough and rough and play the game, they need to put them in gymnastics or ballet dance.
We've lost our emotional maturity with children in sports.
What does that mean?
We don't know the moment to step back.
This month, Fred Ames Group is launching a nationwide campaign to require parents all over the country to take the pledge. It's the first step, he says, to stopping what he calls
So can anybody relate to that, either in your own life or what you see out there, or anybody have any horror stories that similar to that? You want to share? What's your name?
Diane, I'm sorry.
Dania, that's okay. Where are you from?
Wayne County Community.
Okay, excellent.
As a parent, I was one of those mean parents yelling at the ref or the coach, like, "Coach, are you kidding me?" Because my kids play basketball, my son. So I was one of those yelling, not very, I mean, but not yelling to that point, but just, you know, voicing my pain in the stands because you're like, you know, can't believe a play, or why you take them off the game, or, you know, something like that. So I'm just fussing at the coach or the ref in the stands.
Do you feel, I mean, so have you kind of seen that yourself and say, you know, maybe I need to tone it down, or maybe I need to?
Well, it's probably so. It's hard when you're in that moment because your child is up there playing and you're like rooting for them and wanting their team to win and giving them all your support. But then when you see something, you like, you just want to say something. You don't want to not say anything. It's kind of hard sometimes.
Like in high school, just being targeted, you know, it's like, especially when you went on the road. Some of the places we went, band chants got really, really obnoxious. I mean, personal, just, it's like, first couple of years, you know, you're a freshman in high school, you're like, what the heck's going on? It's like, why are they coming at you? It's like, by the time you get to a junior, senior year, it's like, all right, you know, it's been laid up, but just don't, you know, talk on
I don't know, do the high schools at that level, do when the student section is getting rowdy like that and crossing the line, do the athletic directors, and it's been a while since I've been in the gyms, but I don't know if the athletic directors try to calm them down and stop them from doing, I mean, look, everybody's gonna cheer, we're gonna say some things that are funny, but yeah, when you're crossing the line and it's really mean and personal, then that's a different story. But Al, did you have a comment? Al's an official, he's at Lansing Community College, and so he probably has some horror stories.
This will be my 20th year, so I've worked all over the state, in Grand Rapids, and Muskegon, the Flint, the Valley and stuff. It really depends upon the school. I have some schools that are fabulous, you know, they're right on top of the student sections, and if it's anything close. I have some other schools where they really don't care. So I think it's a mentality of the school district and the coaches. And, I gave up the women's college side 2 years ago. A couple coaches that just said, I'm not enjoying this anymore, so I stick with the high school side. But you do hear things. I've heard comments about cheating or, you know, some racial comments back towards me, and it's the game between, you know, two different schools, and I look at it as a security thing.
Wow.
I'm looking for some support, and they're the ones
Yeah.
that, you know, so. And you have been a coach, you know, I think there's a relationship between coaches and officials, and what you see that interchange. I mean, there's been conversation with they go, oh gosh, I kicked that one, sorry. And I'm like, okay, and you move on. As officials are not perfect by any means.
I was just going to say, I don't have any children, but I have friends that do, and I've been to a couple of the football games, especially where I am in the high school at, and from when I was there till now, they actually have 2 police officers at each of the benches, and I went to Fraser, and they have it on the home team, and they also have 2 of them at the visitor team. So if the athletic department cannot get to them, they're on top of it, squashing it, or escorting people out, so it's sad to see that.
Do you think that, go ahead, tell me your name first.
I'm Richard.
Richard.
I also think it's regional too, because I know I went to school in the South, and football is king there. Depending on where you go, if you're a visitor, your parking depends
Has anybody read the book Friday Night Lights, which talks about football in Texas and how it's, they shut it down. Yeah, 20,000 people, and yeah, I haven't read the book. I've read excerpts on it, but yeah, it's pretty crazy there, and I think because of the movie and because of the books, they've made some strides to try to work with parents. When they do the pledge, do you think it's a good idea?
Absolutely. I'm from Jupiter, Florida.
Oh.
Paris to get that at this point, but that's where I went to school, and I participated in those leagues, and I think it's a fantastic idea because I do think it's regional. I lived in the north and in the south, and it was very different in the north, but in Florida, it was all about football, and I mean, the parents were really harsh on the kids.
Yeah.
And so I think
their own kids, the other kids, everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah. Why do you think it's, obviously it's with sports, but is it with mom and dad who has a son playing chess or the violin or a spelling bee? Why is it, what makes it, you don't really at this point have people charging. Obviously, it's the nature of sports. It's intense, and you're cheering, and whereas, with chess or violin, I mean, yeah, if the child isn't winning, or if they're working hard enough, whatever the case is, I mean, yeah, there's a different maybe way of approaching it. What do you call it, a tiger mom?
Yes, if some of you guys were at a conference a few years ago, we had Amy Chua, and she spoke about, being a tiger mom was bad for him, and tiger mother, and it's more of like an Asian parenting style, and she talked about how, Asian people, and I tutor a Taiwanese boy, and so I know how they are, and they, you just, the reason why they had me tutor him is because he was getting all A's except for math, he was getting B, so he needs tutored, but they, that they insist on a certain level, and that they're very much more structured.
Right.
About how things are, like you have to violin, you have to piano.
Yeah. Diane,
Like I was born and raised in Lansing, went to Eastern High School. And of course we had the Sexton, Eastern, always was that. But I don't remember as much as I dated sports people or I had friends in it. It was not so arrogant and tough as it is now. Now I've got grandchildren in smaller community. I'm from Macomb Community College. And my children that are in central Macomb, they're 12 and 13, and they're getting into football and stuff. And that school has been known to not have lost games for a long time. So they're so competitive. Even at 12 and 13, when it's their first time to be able to get into football, they just drill them, and if you don't have a game or you haven't been coming along in the family, or you have brothers and sisters that play sports, there, it's very intense. But my other daughter, who's up in a smaller community and a charter school, as opposed to a public school, they are so much more family-oriented. They don't sit there and scream and shout and cuss people out and everything else, and it's really strange.
Well, then this is a good segue into why do parents and coaches, why are we putting so much pressure on the children? What's going on? Why are we putting pressure on these kids? Jacob.
I believe it's kind of like the parents see that their child has a chance of being good in sport, but they need to push them further. If they have that ability that they could be good in sports, they could be better at football, they could be better at this, then they think they have to push them that they could, like they said, they get their chance to get that contract, get the scholarship. So I think they take on themselves that he could be better, but I have to push him like he can achieve that.
I think it's because of me being a parent, I kind of push my children, not in sports, but like academics, to be the best that they can be, do the best job they can be. So I think maybe parents kind of go overboard with it sometimes, and instead of encouraging, they're really pushing them away.
And why do you think that is? Why are parents doing that? I'm not a parent, so I can't speak to that, but what are some of the reasons? I mean, certainly, yes, maybe they want their child to get the college scholarship.
It's something that we're pushing them because it's something we didn't do. You know, I'm doing it now, but back then at their age, I didn't understand it then. Now I do, so I'm trying to catch them where I should have been caught.
What did he call him? He said, the ego?
Yeah.
The parents who,
exactly.
They weren't the best, so they're pushing their kids.
Yeah,
so you've got parents who are doing that. You've got maybe financially parents thinking that my kid has to get a scholarship, that's how we're going to go to college. And then, of course, the other thing you mentioned was they see these professional athletes that are making $1 bazillion, and they think that, somebody said in one of the articles, the worst thing that parents ever saw was Tiger Woods at age 2 hitting golf balls, because everybody thinks, I'm going to get my kid started at 2. And again, there's a difference. We're talking about a difference between encouraging and giving your kids these opportunities to excel, and crossing the line to and pushing them and making it just not fun. I was home in Pennsylvania this past weekend. My little nephew's 10, and I heard him on the phone with his dad and my brother. Dad, I'm not wrestling this year. So I guess my brother made my nephew be on the wrestling team, and I could see it for the first year, and then I think the second year he really didn't want to do it. So he said, no, you have to be on the wrestling team. So I heard Aiden talking to his dad. I don't like it. I don't want to do wrestling. And so anyway, he hung up. And I said, well, what did your dad say, my brother? He said, okay. So he didn't, and I was glad to hear that he didn't say, well, too bad, you're going to be on the wrestling team this year. He's 10 years old. So I'm glad to hear that my brother kind of let up. And Aiden's very involved in other things, but he just didn't like wrestling. Al?
I think the other thing that we can't take away from this is there's such a focus on winning. I watch the different coaches, and I'm coaching the 8th grade girls and 7th grade girls and lacrosse and all that stuff, so I watch myself get into it as well, and I'm like, you get intense. But there's a certain point where I think we've lost the reality of why sports exist. And it's not always just about winning, it's in life lessons. It really goes back to the term of character development. And I'm always curious, maybe you and I can do a research project together, but I'm always curious when if you were to ask a coach if they can answer the definition of character, or the parents, because a lot of times when you go back to the definition of character, it's doing what's right and wrong no matter who's watching.
Right.
And if
nobody's watching.
Right, and we lose that definition of character because it's about the wins and the losses, and that's why I think AAU basketball is actually made it worse, because we don't teach fundamentals, and now kids come up through the program and we're not even handling the ball correctly. It's all about pressing, helter-skelter.
And with AAU, and it's really, parents are spending, a colleague of mine, I think her daughter's kind of come up through the years, and she's, my colleague over the next building when they're married, she's like, no, Haley has this land, it's costing thousands of dollars, and it's all year round, and they're taking them, and that's wonderful. I think I would have liked that even when I was growing up. I didn't have it, but I don't know. I think I would have liked it, but again, I think with the AAU, it's all about getting out there and being seen,
It's very much going to the tournaments and being that high profile, because you're hoping to get that dream opportunity and actually now what they're seeing is the amount of injuries that occur because you're only doing one sport, the muscle balance and injuries, and it gets you more to play because they didn't have that right time.
There's probably, if they are playing one sport, there's probably a lot more pressure on them because they're just playing that one sport now. And that's
was just gonna say, kind of forced right now. So I grew up in Tennessee, when I was in the South, I played football. I had the chance to be a good team coach, this sports race, but seeing other teams and your friends, and it's like, not so much even the coaches, but the parents would call their children off the field and scream about it. And they would actually ground them and do punishments for dropping in the past, fumbling, or not executing because they would actually punish them.
Should be feeling sorry.
Well, what would you do? So we tend to not do anything when we see people responding and doing things, whether it's this or, yelling at somebody at the supermarket. It's awkward for us. Has anybody ever stepped up and said something?
I had a guy complain about ranch dressing at McDonald's, and I just basically told him that if you want a salad made your way, then you need to go home and make it yourself. Because he was taking 15 minutes, he knew the girls cry, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And I told him to take his scratchy pants off, because nobody gave a crap. So.
Wait, were you working there?
I was not, but I figured it was one or two things. Like, he was either going to attack me and I'd have a million witnesses, or he was just going to feel really stupid and put his head down. And fortunately, he did put his head down and walked away, but I couldn't take it.
Has anybody else ever stepped up or wanted to, and you haven't, and maybe why haven't you? Because it is a little nerve-wracking just to do something like that, particularly
There's just so much violence out there. I mean, there's people that are on the road and they get violent because you ask them, you cut them off or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah, you don't know if something's going to happen, and particularly if you're female, it's a big guy or something, you don't know what's going to happen. People are kind of wacky. We're talking about violence, and it's not just in sports, obviously. It's kind of all over the place. And tell me your name back there.
Hattie.
Hattie.
I think most people don't do anything, especially when they're in a crowd, because of the bystander effect. They think, oh, I want to say something, but someone else is going to say something, so they don't end up doing it. And I think that's one of the big problems in society is, you have to step up. Even if 5 people say the same thing, it's better to step up and say something if something's wrong than just leave it alone and let it pass. Because then that person thinks that they're doing something right and they keep doing it to other people. So I think we need to step up as a society.
Bullies do not get rewarded. Bullies do not get rewarded. That's how you look at it, regardless of the situation.
There's on Sunday evening when they do those hidden cameras and they'll set it up and they'll show how many people just walk by, and some people look and they kind of want to say something, or then eventually somebody stops and says something. It's like, I just think, God, what would I do in that situation? And actually, I know, I was at a coffee shop, this was just maybe 6 months ago, up in Royal Oak, and this guy came and started yelling at the woman behind the counter. And he was African American, and so he would start saying, calling her racist and this and that. I'm not sure what happens, I didn't get there in time. He was just going on and on and on. He had a big backpack, and I'm standing right there thinking, all right, should I say something or should I do something? So I was even kind of nervous about saying it, and then I'm thinking, I said this to my friends, I'm like, I can't believe nobody got up and said it. Like, some guys didn't get up. I mean, I'm all about, like, women's living all this, don't get me wrong, but, and they're like, Diane, you were in a coffee shop, so, but it was, and I was standing there, and he scared me. He was this big guy, he had a big backpack. I'm thinking, what's in that backpack? What if I say something? And it happened so quickly, but afterwards, I was really annoyed with myself for not saying something to the guy. And the woman behind the counter handled it very well, and he was saying all these, calling her names, and it got very personal. But anyway, tell me your name right here.
Rudy.
Rudy, go ahead, Rudy.
I think another reason people don't stand up, particularly when it comes to parents yelling at their kids, is because a lot of people just assume, well, that's their kid. They raise their kid the way they want to raise their kid, and since parenting is different with everyone, there's not like a set way. So what may be completely inappropriate for one parent, they may think it's completely appropriate from a different standpoint.
Sure. Go ahead, Al.
I have to tell you that I've had some discussion with coaches as well. Sometimes the coaches feel like they're tied by the administration at times. We had a game and there was a 16-point to 18-point difference, and these parents are just going crazy. It was over in Bay City, and this team put the thumb. So the first half, I actually ejected the fan, and he yelled and said, "That's the best call of the day." And I said, "I would agree with you, I've been out of the gym." So we came back out in the second half, and we were talking about the sportsmanship, and I think this was when I switched. and these parents were just going ballistic every time down the court, and you could watch the girls demeanor even as said, whose parent is that over there? Chick, she goes, that's mine, that's my dad. She goes, I'm so embarrassed, I'm sorry. She goes, they're being real mean. I said, don't worry about us. I said, you enjoy the game. I said, we'll handle that. So we ejected the 3 parents out of the game because at that point we're done, and we said something to the coach. The coach says, I'm sorry, goes, thanks for doing it, goes, because there's nothing I can do. They won't listen to me. So they get ejected, and I have to tell you that the team that was down by 16 points, with halfway through the 3rd quarter, came back to win at the end of the game after the parents left because they realized to play basketball. So
There you go. Pressure. There you go. Casey.
I can say, maybe I'm not bashing you by any means, but having parents of like other teammates, my parents are always good sports, and you know, pressured me, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. But there was, you know, one girl in particular, and her mother is just awful. And I mean, it wasn't just to the one student, you know, to the whole team at times. And it just takes something out of it for everyone else. And I think, you know, you definitely start to play worse when you're having that negative pressure on you.
Sure, and it's kind of amazing that 70% of kids drop out by 13. It seems to be fun. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. And you know, and thinking of my niece, who she was playing basketball, and I was all excited because she was playing basketball, but then she quit, and she's playing tennis now. So, but you know, she's fortunately, my brother and sister-in-law, they encouraged her, and my brother probably pushed a little bit, but you know, I think he was pretty good in that respect. I don't, he certainly wasn't one of those obnoxious parents that are out there. Again, crossing the line from just encouraging and helping your children to making it really horrible and demeaning and not only verbally, and like one guy said, and Norm said here, it's personal, a lot of personal things, but now it's violence. I mean, the headbutting and the punching, and I mean, you know, the guy killed somebody, pummeled somebody to death. And so, yeah, a lot of crazy stuff happening out there. Go ahead.
It might be fair. I wasn't that. I'm not that bad. When I said, let me clarify something. When I was yelling, it wasn't like belittling the players or yelling. It was like, catch the ball, or seriously, elbows up, you know, something like that. Like I'm trying to coach from the stands that way. Instead of actually, you know, you idiot or something like that. It wasn't in that manner. So just to clarify, I'm not just that.
I only warned her once. Just once I warned her. Would you consider your children are playing now?
No, that was when, no, they were younger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You go back and you see it. Ask them how they felt.
I will.
And then just say, not that there's anything you can do about it now, but
I
ask
will.
them. I mean, you know, and maybe you never had that conversation with them, and maybe, you know, it's when they have kids and they're going to the game. So.
My granddaughter's 13 tomorrow, and she's playing football for the first time.
Nice.
And she didn't know it was a week before she can tackle it, because she's always playing with her brother, and she's like, can't tackle her. She's in Chicago, she's got a great scrum on her. But we were at the very first game, and my daughter and I were down a couple of rows from these 3 women that were just chattering away up there, and some of their stuff was kind of fun. And then they were 30 years long, so she didn't have it up under her helmet, she had it hanging down, so the first comments were, is that a guy? Oh no, that's the only girl. And you can hear the tempo going down, you know, and she hadn't got out right at the beginning. And they were making other snide remarks about it and stuff. And then they put Sierra out on the field, and I said, go Sierra! And Julie started being friendly, that made no sense. Yeah, that's my granddaughter.
Yeah, parents will check themselves, I guess. Yeah, I think with a lot of parents, and I mean, do you think that it's getting worse? I mean, again, it might just be because we see it all the time now, and we have record of it. But you know, we talked about certainly scholarship. I mean, with the financial situation, yeah, parents want their kids to get a scholarship. 1 in 40 students will get a scholarship. That means 39 students aren't getting scholarships to college. And the money that they see with these professional athletes. And then I think now with everybody working, with parents working, and they're so in tune when they get home, they've got to get Johnny to here and Johnny to there, so they're so invested in it, and financially and just time-wise, and everything's so intense. And I mean, my mother was very supportive of me, but I'd say it was different. I'm not that old, but I just did my thing, and she did my game, and she was nice and pleasant in the stands and everything. But I wasn't traveling in AAU, and she wasn't spending thousands of dollars on me to go travel all over the place and buy equipment for me. So yeah, it's a different time as well, and I think we all understand that, and we know that. And certainly with, again, whether it's chess, your chess player, your spelling bee. I mean, you ever see that movie, the Spelling Bee? What's that movie called? It was on and they followed these. What was it? No, this was a documentary. It was about, they followed like 5 or 6 kids who were studying for the spelling bee. I mean, it was crazy. These parents, I mean, these kids are spelling words, I don't know, hundreds of words. I mean, this is all they do, is they just spell, they practice spelling words. And it was very intense. I mean, it's a documentary on, I saw this a couple years ago, but it was quite interesting. But this was a spelling bee, but that's pretty intense when they get to that level. But that's their basketball, that's their football. I mean, it's spelling bee. So, yeah, sports of the mind. So, I was going to divide us into a couple groups just to do a little exercise, but I know we kind of talked about a lot of stories and everything. I think we said a lot of good things so that when we do go out there and to our grandchildren's or our neighbors' games, or if we just see something on the street that's happening, or at McDonald's, and maybe we can tell people to pick up their trash cans. So you have to be careful about that. But I mean, it's in how we say it, and you have to kind of sort of take stock of the situation as well. And so yeah, we do need to step up, and it's going to take some guts to do that. And but I think hopefully we're all a little more aware of that. But we do have a few minutes left, and what are some things that we can do if we focus on number 3? Create alternatives to achieve the same results in a more positive manner. So the way these kids are being pressured, what can we do? What can we do to just turn it into a more positive process? Jacob?
Just maybe something we're going, we're shifting from external pressure from other people on the show, kind of build this that they have their own pressure. But they feel more in themselves like, I should achieve this, or we foster it more that it's their choice. Not so much that I have to achieve this because scholarships and one, but to be the best that you can be.
Excellent. Great.
Yeah, on that same note, I was a pitcher, and my dad would never be like, hey, let's go over the ball. We'd always wait for me to be the one, like, hey, I want to go pitch, I want to work on that, so we'd go practice some swings. It was never that, like, hey, we're going to go do this right now. It was never forced on me. That's how I got so much out of it.
And again, my knees, me being a coach, when I originally from Pennsylvania, when I go back to visit, the YMCA was right down the road. All right, you want to go down to the gym, and I'll put you through some drills. And she's like, okay. And so she'd do it, and she was in 8th grade, 9th grade, and she would do it, and I'd go through the drills. And so then at some point I said, you know what? When I come home, I'm not going to ask you anymore. You have to ask me. If you ask me, I'll go down there, I'll spend 3 hours, whatever. But you have to ask me, because I felt she was only doing it for me. Okay, I'll go down and do it, even though I'd rather be hanging out with my friends, but I'll go do it. And so, she never asked me. Every time I come home, she never really asked. So I kind of figured she really didn't want to do it. And she ended up quitting basketball, and I think she liked hanging out with the girls and being on the team, but I don't think she really liked basketball. So that was kind of eye-opening for me, and I was certainly disappointed that she didn't ask me, hey, let's go down to the gym and put me through some drills. But I kind of thought that. I'm like, I don't want somebody to do that for me.
I think maybe trying to shift the focus off of the accolades and the trophies and the status may help make it more level or calm. Because the more you say, we have to do this, we have to win the nationals or focus on where the team wants to be, or the AC, what's it called, PAL or AU, yeah, those, where they want to be versus is it something that's just enjoyable for the kids?
Do you think, let me ask this, so nowadays, every kid gets a trophy, everybody gets a medal, and then those of us who are a little bit older say, oh, I didn't, we learned how to lose, and we had to lose, and everybody didn't get a medal, and so we kind of frown upon that. Do you think that's good? That not everybody's getting a medal, but I mean, is that a little overboard? Is there, maybe we can kind of meet halfway?
Not everybody has the same talents, but at the same time, I think if we have expectations, whether it's academic or in sport, and they say this is what you have to achieve by the end of the year, or maybe you have to think garage, you have to set some parameters. Without the parameters, there's no achievement. One big problem that they say now is that young people, they don't have props on.
And maybe that's kind of goes with Jacob is, the trophies that everybody gets, that's the external, and yeah, okay, everybody got the trophy, but again, you need to, we lost fair and square, and but do some of these other things that we're talking about, rather than giving them a medal, and they, didn't play very well when the case was.
I just have to say, I think Special Olympics is a really great model for that. My brother has been participating in Special Olympics for at least the last 8 years. And while they all do get medals, the focus really is on teamwork and sportsmanship and getting together with the other teams after the event is over to celebrate. And even though they are all getting medals, every year we see improvement, and it's because of positive reinforcement and encouraging them to do better. And each year they do want to do a little bit better. So I think there's a way to find a place in the middle where you can still recognize everyone for participating and still encourage them to improve. Excellent.
Let me go back here to, tell me your name.
Lindsay.
Lindsay, go ahead, Lindsay.
It actually has been proven that giving everyone equal medals despite what they've actually earned is bad for your levels of self-efficacy. If you don't learn how to motivate yourself, then you're never going to learn. And it's actually not good for your mental health. It's been linked to bullying, that if your ego cannot be backed up by your own merit, then you're unstable, and you're more likely to find ways to vent, usually in violence.
Okay. Thank you.
I remember when I was playing sports growing up, our coaches, they always, before we went out to anything, I had the privilege of both the teams I played for had the same coaches. And every time we go out to play a game, they'd always say, we're going to have fun. Like, you're going to have fun. Hockey, floor hockey and baseball. And they were always saying you're going to have fun. There would be some seasons where we'd go undefeated because we were the oldest team in the league. And then the next season we'd be the youngest and we'd lose every game. And they would always just encourage you, go out, have fun, because if you don't have fun, then you'll never really win. And if you lose, there's always the next game, there's always next season. And that's how we would always look forward to it. It's like, okay, maybe we lost all the floor hockey games with baseball season coming up. And we can try to improve that.
Yeah, and we all want to have fun. I mean, we want to have fun when we do things, and we don't want people yelling at us and our bosses. I mean, when our bosses yell at us and harass us, I mean, that's no fun. So, I mean, there was when I was looking through some things, there was a little commercial announcement or whatever, that the little leaguer was getting ready to bat, and his father said something in the stands, and the little leaguer turned around and started yelling at his dad. But it was the commercial, and he said, just go home and get out of here, and then it basically was, see how this is how we feel when we're getting yelled at by you. And I'm not sure where they played that particular public service announcement, but it was kind of interesting. But Al, last comment here before we end the lunch.
I think the next step in this is when we look at students in schools, we have very segregated activities. The more inclusive it becomes, so we, Special Olympics is a wonderful organization, but why don't we allow those students to be involved in high school setting? Why don't we, and so we do the segregated. They've shown, and I believe research has shown that as you get more collaboration, the participation goes up, the value in that, you're running the team and things like that. And I think that's a natural step, like the field of dreams and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, all good stuff. And again, if you don't have children, or someday some of you will, and just keep this in mind, remember this session, and, you know, your brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, whatever. I mean, we're still all involved in this. And whether it's sports, or the McDonald's, or the chess, or whatever, or just somebody getting harassed on the streets, you know, maybe we will be more inclined and a little more confident in stepping up and saying something, hopefully in a tactful manner that, you know, they might not respond very well at that moment, but maybe they go home and think about it, and, you know, whether they're embarrassed or whether they just, you know, are shocked and maybe didn't realize that this was their game. So, anyway, just a couple resources that the National Alliance for Youth Sports, a couple things, and the Council for Youth Sports, but there's plenty of, you know, there's plenty of information online that you can find. So, anyway, I know I hear stomachs rumbling, so I'm assuming it's lunchtime. So, anyway, thank you all for coming today.